Hi everyone, welcome back to Vertical Movement PT. I'm Dr. Kimmi, physical therapist, and we are back at the desk. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about ergonomics and what is the best way to set up your workstation so you could feel your best. First is body position. One thing that is important to remember is 90-90-90. 90 degrees at your elbow, 90 degrees at your hip crease, and 90 degrees at your knee. But a lot of times, workstations, the table is not set perfectly for you. Sometimes your table is too high and it's not an adjustable desk. And what you need to do is you raise your seat up. But as you can see, my legs are dangling, and that's really common. So what you can use is a stool or a random box. Thank you, random cameraman. I just use my old laptop box, or you can use a phone booth with the phone book. Who uses phone books anymore? And you can put that there at your feet to kind of give that lift. The next position I want to talk about is the standing position, because I know how popular standing desks are nowadays. And you can't believe how many times I've seen people use these things the wrong way. So first thing you want to pay attention to is that you have the right alignment. That your ears are aligned to your shoulders are aligned to your hips are aligned to your knee and your ankle. You also want to make sure that your knees and your ankle, they're about hip width apart. And I'm okay with having your feet be out a little bit wider than your hip, because a wider stance has more stability. You want to make sure that you do not lock your knees out, but you have a slight little knee bend. Also, pay attention to your pelvis. Make sure that it's not tilted too forward where your butt's sticking out, or tilted backwards, because then that's going to cause some low back pain. Pay attention to the way that you're standing. Try to have your weight evenly distributed and that you're not leaning to one side or the other. Lastly, pay attention to your shoulders. Make sure they're relaxed and that your elbows are at 90 degrees. Next, we're going to talk about what kind of chair should you get. I think that's a really common question I get. And a few things to look for when you're picking your chair. The backrest. To me, that's the most important part. A lot of times people don't use their backrests, and they're found up really close up to the computer, and they get back pain. So you want to make sure to get a chair that has a solid backrest. I really don't like the chairs that recline when you sit back, so you can't actually really sit back without leaning backwards. Try to find a backrest that can support your whole back, okay? And also, you want to find a chair with different adjustments, because everybody's body is different. With your knees, you want to make sure that when you're sitting back on the backrest, that there's about 2 inches, so about like maybe 2 or 3 fingers space between your back of your knee and the chair. When the chair pushes on the back of the knee, kind of like that, it pushes on your nerve, okay? And also sometimes people sit too far forward. That pressure there also puts pressure on your sciatic nerve, and that is not a good feeling, let me tell you. So just make sure that you're back enough to where you have about 2-3 inches between the knee. If you find that you can't do that, and that you're too far back and there's no space there, you could put some sort of lumbar support here or a pillow so that you can have that space. Okay? Armrest, I can take it or leave it. That's up to you. Sometimes you can use the armrest to relieve the tension from your shoulders while you're typing, but sometimes the pressure from the armrest can put pressure on your ulnar nerve and cause that pain going into your hand. So armrest, I don't think you really need it, especially if it's not adjustable and you can't make it go down, because you wouldn't be able to go underneath the desk. And that's really important, to be able to be up close to the keyboard so that you can use your backrest. Next, we're going to talk about the monitor position. You want to make sure the height of the monitor is about the place where your eyes hit at the position 2 inches away from the top of the screen. The monitor distance, you want it to be about 1 arm length away from your body. Monitor position, if you have one monitor, make sure it's at the center. A lot of times with corner desks, I notice that the monitor is on one side or the other and the body's a little twisted. Try to avoid that. If you have 2 screens, you want to place it as if it was a book, and the spine of the book is right in the center. If you have one of those screens that you use more than the other, you can place that at the center and the other screen as a reference. But I highly recommend, if you use the screens about the same amount of time, placing it so it's like a book, so the center is right in front of you. And I know a lot of times people use their laptops, so what you can do, you could go ahead and put your laptop on some books or buy a laptop stand, and then you can get a separate keyboard and a wireless mouse. So that way you could have the screen up high, but then have a separate keyboard so that your eyes are nice and straight. Next, we're going to talk about keyboard position. You want to make sure to place the keyboard about 2 to 4 inches away from your body, and also that it's at the center of how you would type. Your mouse, I know it sounds crazy, but you want to place it on your non-dominant side. The reasoning is it will help avoid hand and wrist fatigue. If you're going to sit at a desk for hours and you plan to do a computer job for many years more, it doesn't hurt to learn how to use your non-dominant hand, because it can save your hand in the long run. If that sounds too crazy and you're just thinking, no way, Jose, you can go ahead and place your mouse on your dominant side, but just make sure that the keyboard is placed at the center of your body and that your mouse isn't in a position where you're reaching for it. Make sure that you have that 90-degree bend. An important thing to remember is your wrist position. You want to make sure to keep your wrist in a neutral position where it's floating. You don't want it to be too extended, resting on the table, or you don't want it to be too flexed. What that does, it causes compression in your wrist, and it will push on your median nerve, causing numbness, tingling, and pain in your hands. So what I recommend is a neutral wrist position that's floating. The wrist pads, I'm not a big fan of them because a lot of the time it actually increases the pressure in your wrist. So if you can, it is a lot better to have your wrist be neutral and floating. Next, we're going to talk about the different zones at your workstation. The first zone is the primary zone, and that's when it's the position from your elbow to your hands. So right here in this zone, you want to have things that you use often, such as your keyboard or your mouse. If you're on the phone often, you want to keep that in the primary zone so that you're not reaching for it often throughout the day. The next zone is the secondary zone, and that's the distance if my hands were reaching out. You want to put things in this zone that you use maybe once or twice every hour. I often find that the keyboard and the mouse is placed in the secondary zone, and that's a no-no because that causes your arms to stretch, your neck to lean forward, and over time that will cause you a lot of pain. The tertiary zone, that's the last one, and that's outside your hand reach. So everything that's outside your reach, like Baby Yoda here. You want to place things outside that zone that you don't use very often. Lastly, you want to remember to stand up every 45 to 60 minutes to give your body a stretch break. And that's it. That's everything that you need to know to set up your workstation so that it can be its best, so your body could feel its best. If you liked what you learned today and you want to learn more things about how to take care of your body, go ahead and subscribe to Vertical Movement PT. And I would be more than happy to teach you more ways to take care of your body, mind, and soul through health, fitness, and physical therapy.